Oh my goodness. There are so many little kid fingerprints all over my mirror. That's disgusting. Ugh, oh my God. I have to clean that the next time I film up here. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name's Jess, and today I am coming at you with the first step in how to begin paying off your debt. Not only will we be talking about the first step, but also the steps following it. Before we get into these tips, go ahead and check me out on Instagram, and the link will be down in the description box, and then make sure you hit the subscribe button so you never miss a budgeting tip with me. Without further ado, let's go ahead and talk about the first step in starting to pay off your debt. So what I would recommend before you do anything else is to figure out all of the debt that you owe. So number one, if you owe student loans, you can go to mystudentaid.org, and you should be able to look there and see all of the student loans that you owe, but then also you want to find out what else you owe on. So once you figure out everything that you owe, you need to make sure you know who you owe it to and who you are going to be paying. Next, you need to figure out what your minimum payments are so that you know how much money each month is going to go towards your debt. The next step is to figure out what you're spending. So what I would recommend is contacting your bank or going online and printing out 3 months worth of expenses so that you can figure out what it is that you spend in each category. So once you get that printout of the last 3 months expenses, you want to break it into categories. So figure out how much you've been spending on groceries every month, figure out how much you've been spending on your kids, how much you've been spending on clothing, etc., bills, rent, all of that. Once you do that, then you can kind of see from those 3 months, each month, what the average is that you are spending on each category. From there, you can kind of figure out where you have maybe a little bit of a spending issue, or you might realize that you spent $300 at Starbucks one month when you didn't even think that the $5 every day was adding up. So this is really where you can look at the areas that you probably could cut down, which leads into the next step. The next step is going to be figuring out your budget. So you're going to use this information that you found from the last 3 months of expenses, and you're going to build a budget. What a budget does is a budget tells your money where to go. If the thought of budgeting is stressful to you, which it was for me for a long time, just thinking about like putting all my money somewhere and then there's nothing left, okay? That's not exactly the mindset to go in with. The mindset to go in with starting a budget is I'm telling my money exactly where to go so that I know what I have left over and I can put it towards my financial goals. With that being said, that kind of leads us into our next step. You want to budget all of your necessities, and then from your necessities, find out those areas that you've been spending a little bit in and give yourself a little bit in those categories to spend so that you don't feel so restricted, but make sure you keep it to a minimum. Be realistic with your budget. You don't want to set a budget that you're not gonna stick to, because then everything's gonna go out the window and you're gonna give up. If you spent $100 last month on one particular category, bring it down to $75 this month, and then the next month bring it down to $50 if you can. Once you list out all of your necessities, then you have your little categories here and there for your spending money. Then you want to figure out what it is that you have left over. And what you have left over in your budget is going to go towards your financial goals. If you're watching this, I assume that you're in debt and you want to get out of debt. But before we start paying extra to our debts, remember, in your budget, you want to make sure you're putting all your minimum payments for your debts so that you're paying those for sure. But before we put any extra money towards our debts, we want to set an emergency fund. What an emergency fund is something to where if all of a sudden you can't pay rent or your car breaks down, that you can use the emergency fund to get you through that time. For a lot of people, this is so that they stop spending with credit cards. I've never had credit cards, so I've never had to go through that. I've just had to try to make things work and get help from people. Your emergency fund is your safety blanket. If you listen to Dave Ramsey, he says to get a $1,000 emergency fund set up before you start paying your debt. I'm going to recommend that you decide what's best for your family. So, for instance, I have 2 kids with a baby on the way, and I'm not comfortable with just $1,000. I would say decide what you would be comfortable with, but not too comfortable, okay? You want this to be something that you can get in the savings account quickly within the next couple months. I would recommend saving anywhere between $1,000 and $3,000. Right now, for our family, we are keeping right about $2,000 to $2,300. We feel a little bit better that way because we do have kids and we just want to have a little bit more of a safety blanket. The way that you're getting this emergency fund is by taking all that extra money and putting it into a savings account and not touching it unless you absolutely have to for an emergency. Hopefully you can get this step done in the next 2 to 3 months, and then from there we move on to our next step. Our next step is going to be deciding whether you want to go with a debt snowball or a debt avalanche. And if you don't know what either of these terms are, or you just want to kind of know a little bit more, I do have a video on that. I'll link up here. You can go check that out, and that just kind of explains the difference between the two. It mainly focuses on the debt snowball and why it works. A debt snowball is where you list your debts from smallest to largest, and you start paying all your minimum payments, and then you put all of your extra money that was going to your emergency fund last month. You're gonna put all your extra money towards that first debt. Once that first debt's paid off, you snowball all of the money that you've been paying to that and the minimum payment from that into the next debt, and so on and so forth till all your debts are gone. With a debt avalanche, you're going to list your debts from highest interest rate to lowest interest rate, and then you're gonna do the same thing, except for you're gonna be paying on the highest interest rate first. Once you put all your extra money to that one, once that debt disappears, you're going to move on to the next debt and add your snowball plus the minimum payment of the previous debt to that debt, and so on and so forth until all of your debts are gone. So it really depends on what you want to do. You most likely will save a little bit of money with the debt avalanche when you're talking about interest, but with the debt snowball, you're going to be paying off those smaller debts quickly, and that will give you the motivation to keep going. So it depends on what's going to work better for your family. You've got both of those options. The next step is going to be to keep increasing your debt snowball. And how do you do this? You're going to increase the amount of income that you're making. So this might not be at your regular job, but find a side job. Find little things that you can do to make extra money. Go around your house and look at the things that you don't use anymore and sell them on Facebook Marketplace, or take them to one of those secondhand clothing stores that buy the clothing from you, and add that money to your debt snowball month to month. There are also little things that you can do around your house. You can start using your kitchen rags instead of using paper towels. Maybe start buying generic groceries rather than buying the name brands. The things that you're buying might not seem like you're spending a bunch of extra money, but over time, those little dollars and 50 cents, 75 cents that you could be saving will add up a lot. I do have another video on how to make income on the side, and I'll link that as well. You can check that out, but there are so many ways. Just find things that you're good at, find things that you enjoy that you could do in your free time, and make an income out of it. The last step that I'm going to talk about is stay consistent. Make sure that you're checking your budget at least once in the middle of the month, and then go over at the end of the month so you know that you're spending your money where you plan to spend it. If something comes up, for instance, this month, I had to spend $340 to get my computer fixed. The great thing about budgeting and being on this journey is that it's not going to be perfect, and it can never be perfect. So just go with the flow, roll with the punches. If you have an unexpected expense come up, number one, if it's an emergency, you have your emergency fund. Number two, if you have some sort of category that you ended up saving on that month, you can use that money towards whatever the unexpected expense was. So just be consistent. Don't strive to be perfect, because your budget and your debt payoff journey are not going to be perfect, and that's okay. Along with being consistent, don't stop. So give yourself a goal. We've given ourselves a goal to become debt-free in 5 years, which for us, we have $125,000 worth of debt. We're going to need 5 years to pay it off realistically. Now, if we can continue to create more income for ourselves and keep bringing additional income in, we're going to be out of debt before that 5 years. I wanted to give myself an end date so that I can hit it hard and be consistent and really, really have the motivation to finish by then, because if I wouldn't have set that date, I would just be like paying willy-nilly here and not thinking about ways that I can get it done before then. So really quickly, before I end this video, I'm gonna go back over these steps. Number 1, figure out all your debt. Number 2, figure out what you're spending each month. Number 3, set a budget. Number 4, save up an emergency fund. 5, decide if you're going to do a debt avalanche or a debt snowball. And number 6, stay consistent and don't stop. So I hope you liked this video. Please make sure you give it a thumbs up and then comment down below what step you're on. Or if you're on the baby steps with Dave Ramsey, comment down below what step of the baby steps that you're on. And also, go ahead and throw any comments down there about what you want to see next. I really am enjoying doing these budget videos. It keeps me staying consistent, working on my budget and working on my financial goals constantly. And then it also gives me other people to collaborate with and talk about like what they're doing to help pay off their debt quicker, and then just what they're doing to stay motivated. And as always, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss a video. If you hit that notification bell, it will notify you when I upload, and I guess we will see you in 3 days. No. Bug. No. Your debt. That's so stupid. I'm so out of breath.